I didn't learn this in film school. I didn't learn this at CSUN when I got my bachelor's degree, and I didn't learn it at USC when I got my MFA. But when I came back as a professor this summer at USC, this is what I chose to teach my students. And what you're about to see is the evaluations that my students did on me. Now, if you're not familiar with an evaluation, if you've ever been in college, it is something that all students have to do for their professors. So they got a chance to tell me how they liked the class, what they thought was most effective, and what I can do next time to be better. Now, these evaluations are all anonymous. I don't know who wrote each evaluation, although I do get a chance to see, and I'll share with you all, what they thought about my class. So know that I did not influence anything they are saying. I had to actually be outside of the room. Again, if you've been a student in college, you know that usually the professors are not present during these evaluations that students do in the class. Let's take a look at it. But wait, before we jump into it, when I read these reviews and all of the evaluations, it wasn't that I was blown away about what they said, but I was more impressed on what I taught them and the imprint that it left on them. Because again, like I said previously, I didn't learn all of these things when I was a student. So to hear that what I thought was valuable and important as a cinematographer for students in a cinematography class, to hear that it was effective. So let's get into it. The 3 pillars that I taught in my class were camera settings and camera basics, which were really tied to the Sony FX30, which is the camera that they all used during the summer. So teaching them camera basics and foundations of what cinematography is, then also learning the ins and out of the camera as well. It's pillar number 1. Pillar number 2 is what I like to call key vision. Now that's something that I coined, at least the name. The technique is widely used, and I'm actually kind of using it right now as we speak, but that was pillar number 2. And last but not least was the BODVO system. It's something that you can probably find on YouTube, but it is something that is so crucial to everything that I do, and seeing the students go through the paces and learning what each letter in the BODVO system is and means and how they do it, when they do it, why they do it. It ties in all 3 of those pillars that I taught. So now you know all the things that I taught in my class. Let's take a closer look at what the grades I was given from my students. So the grading scale is based off of 5 criteria. Those 5 criteria are course design, instructional practices, inclusion practices, assessment practices, and course impact. Let's talk about the grades that I got, and do I agree with them, and do I feel like they are earned or deserved? So course design, I got a 4.0. That's pretty good. The design of my course, I am very grateful for that 4.0. I think that I worked really, really hard again on trying to pull in everything that I did not learn as a student when I was a student, and trying to kind of just jam pack everything that I thought that I think is valuable to me. So I guess the 4.0 is something that surprised me. Instructional practices. Now, again, when I was a student, the instructional practices were different than what I taught to my students. And I think that all comes with personalities of professors. So for me, I'm a very easygoing person, and I like to laugh, I like to joke, and I try to implement my personality directly into what I'm teaching. So I have no shame, or at least I try not to have any shame in the projects that I've worked on and the things that I can share, because with every single project, whether it's deemed good or bad, I think there are learning opportunities. So the fact that I was able to try and lean on those experiences, it really allowed me to figure out ways that I can help streamline all of my students' mistakes and turn them into learning opportunities. So just trying to always remind my students what is quote unquote the right way, or a good starting point when approaching everything cinematography. Inclusion practices, I got a 3.9, which is still really good. It's not a perfect score. So inclusion practices, that is something that I tried really hard to try and reach out to all my students. And if you are unfamiliar, again, with this program at USC, it's this film intensive program. Not all my students are wanting to become cinematographers. So I have to find a way to bridge that gap to make what I am teaching fun for everyone, even for those who are very intimidated by the camera, by the lights. So of course I will always need work on that, and I'm very happy to learn from that. So looking at the score, I think for what it is, 3.9 is pretty dang good. Now assessment practices, I got a 3.92, which is pretty good. For assessment in my class, it was really just class projects, and overall, they worked on, I believe, 3 or 4 big projects that they were doing outside of my class, which tied into the directing class. Again, I was just the cinematography component for my section, for my students. So for me to run assessments during class, it was really fun and very telling and showing who all of the students who were very cinematography savvy and or interested in it. And it gave them an outlet to get a chance to play with the camera and the lights and the entire set. We were on a soundstage, and I think a lot of the students had fun on one particular day when we were able to use the set walls to build a set and then light a set. So that's something that I will remember and I will take with me for the next time I get a chance to teach, giving students the ability to have freedom with creating a set if the place that I'm teaching allows to have set walls and then come in with the lights. So I think I did pretty good, and I'm actually pretty happy with that 3.9. I know that I can definitely do better. And last but not least, my lowest score, course impact, got a 3.83. Now, the course impact, again, that is something that actually surprised me because I don't know that all of these criteria line up with each other. Just because I got like a perfect score here does or does not mean that I get a different or reflective score in a certain area. So when I saw this lowest grade and I thought of just the entire overall course impact, it was something that kind of hurt my pride a little bit, if I'm being honest, but it was something that, again, it was a learning point. And I haven't been teaching for extremely long time. I've only taught for maybe 2.5 years as an adjunct professor, so I'm still learning. And on top of that, I've only been in the film industry maybe 10 years at most. So there's always so much for me to learn, and I'm always trying to have everything that I am teaching on like the bleeding edge of what I think cinematography is and what it should be, and also where it's going. So again, the fact that I got my lowest score in the course impact really just allows me to internalize everything that I've done, gives me a chance to look at my syllabus, look at my curriculum, and just find a way to fine tune it and make it better for students so that I can have a bigger impact on their future as filmmakers, as humans, and of course, as cinematographers. Okay, so now that we got all that fluff out of the way, let's actually take a look at some of my students' responses and what they commented about me and or the class. Again, these are all anonymous, so I have no idea who wrote this. Even to this day, I don't know who wrote it. I will always remember key vision for lighting and Baudveau as well. That's cool. And I'm so happy that the way that I try to like really double down on key vision lighting and on the Baudveau system, it's really cool to hear that some of my students are able to comment that they won't forget them. Because again, in my approach as a cinematographer and as an instructor of cinematography, I really feel like I personally use these methods every single time I'm watching a movie and I'm analyzing something, or when I'm filming something, whether it be a commercial, a short film, a documentary. Anytime I turn on the camera, it's these practices that I'm always leaning on. And I don't want to say that these are the be-all, end-all techniques, but it is a wonderful starting point for students and even for professionals to have some sort of footing and approach to filming a scene. Because if you don't know where to start, it just feels very daunting. It can feel like paralysis where you just don't know what to do with the camera, with the lights. So teaching these fundamental things really makes me happy to hear that students are not going to forget them, and hopefully use them and hopefully grow from them, and maybe one day learn something completely better, and then maybe I can learn from that, which would be the ultimate goal as a professor. Maddie believed in me and helped me with imposter syndrome. I'll never forget him as a teacher who truly believed in me. That is really cool. I feel grateful for words like that, because for me, I have professors and I have mentors and I have people in my life and my journey as a cinematographer, as someone who's just a man in this world, or a human in this world, a friend in this world, who have had impact on me in such a great way. So to hear that I can help someone in some way with their imposter syndrome, which I deal with all of the time, and I think a lot of us do, and whether we know it, admit it, or share it to a degree, we all feel that. And I'm so happy that for a young student who is 16 or 17, to hear them say that about me really means a lot. And again, that means more to me than what cinematography does for my students. And again, it's kind of like what I talked about, how every professor is different with their approaches, and I always try to have a humanistic approach to it, because at the end of the day, we are humans first, friends first, family first, and then we can become cinematographers and filmmakers. So that was one of my favorite comments that I've ever gotten, and I'm very proud of that. All right, so now that I've wiped off all my tears from just like joy and gratitude from some of the comments that I got, let's actually talk about, and let's take a closer look into what are the 3 pillars that we talked about in the beginning of the video that I got a chance to teach, and the 3 pillars that I really firmly believe in. So let's take a look. All right, so pillar number 1 was camera basics and or intro to the Sony FX30. Everything that I taught through this camera basics was through the FX30, and instead of overwhelming my students with a heavy amount of theory, I really wanted to just boil down what I thought are the key things to understanding cinematography in a technical sense, as well as a practical sense through these big 3, which I called it in class. Those big 3 are the ISO, the shutter angle, and also aperture. Now, all of those 3 things will allow you to adjust for exposure, for image size, for composition, and so much more. But again, those were the 3 basic things that I taught my students, and I also gave them a cheat sheet, which, as you're probably looking at, is hopefully helpful, or it could look like something completely gibberish because, again, you know nothing about cinematography, which is fine. Stay tuned, and maybe I'll make some tutorials about the big 3 in a later video. So what made sense to me was teaching my students the camera basics through the FX30 and the big 3, which really sets a foundation for how to, 1, operate the camera, and then 2, what all of these settings actually mean, because at the end of the day, students had to operate their camera in full-on manual mode. So giving them a basic understanding of what the big 3 do to their image when they're recording is super helpful, or at least what I think is very helpful. And here is what one of my students said about learning the camera basics. Learning how to operate the camera was really valuable for me. It helped me collaborate and make better films. So again, as you heard one of my students say, that it helped them collaborate and make better films. And I think that's ubiquitous with learning how to operate and control the camera to create the images that you are trying to achieve. So hopefully it landed with all of my students, not just that one student who you heard from. But again, for me, creating that foundation with the camera basics is something that I will always teach first for my students. Pillar number 2 is key vision. Now that is a term that I have coined myself. You can scour the internet for the term key vision. You probably won't find much, which again, it is not something that I have created myself. It is just a way that I interpret how to light and how a lot of cinematographers have used this certain lighting technique. I just like to call it key vision. So what key vision is if you block your talent towards your key light, which I have here, and if you block them in such a way that they are looking at the key light and you have the camera on the shadow side, you will always have contrast on your talent's face, and you will always have your key light, which you can see here, and your talent's vision. And I think that's how I came up with the word or the term key vision. It's really just having your key light in your talent's eye. Once I taught all of my students what key vision is, how you can use it, when you can use it, it really sets a foundation of you really have 2 ways, 2 options, how to light a face or light a space. So it is one of the most valuable things that I have actually come to have a better understanding of myself, and also for my students to have a better understanding of how to execute, and also how to watch images to see if other filmmakers, other cinematographers are using this thing called key vision. So again, let's take a look at what one of my students thought of key vision. Key vision lighting was really insightful, and that's when I realized what actual films use. So again, I did not create how to use key vision. It's not a new thing that is never been done or performed before. It was just a way that I could interpret how cinematographers are lighting, and how what my professors were telling me in undergrad and also in the MFA program. They would always use this term, shoot into the shadows. And I had no idea how to make sense of that in my own head. Like, what does that mean, shoot into the shadows? I didn't get it. So for me, I came up with a term that just helped me better understand what that meant so that I can translate it to something in my head that makes sense. And that's when I came up with the term, only the term, key vision. So it's really cool to hear that students are seeing film in the way that I can see it, in the way that I was taught it, but just hopefully I'm connecting the dots a little bit better, giving it a fancy name and something that really just helped me understand it better, and in turn help my students understand how to have, or how to start off, I should say, not how to have, but how to start off in a good place when lighting your subjects. And last but not least is the third pillar, known as BODVO. That is an acronym that I did not create this time. It is something that I learned from a cinematographer that I follow, that when I learned this acronym called BODVO, it made so much more sense to me. And as a young cinematographer that I am now, and even younger when I first started, I was always trying to make sense of how to read an image, but I never could quite fully understand what that meant or how to even look to read an image. But when I learned the BODVO system, it gave me so much more confidence. It gave me so much more information on how to read an image and how to have repeatable results, which is the biggest thing about BODVO, that acronym. It allows me to have repeatable results, and it gives me a starting point to improve and get better. So what in the world does BODVO mean? The acronym: B stands for bar scene, O stands for office scene, D stands for dinner table scene, V stands for vehicle scene, and then O is other. And when I showed them this entire system, I really saw a lot of the lights turn on in their heads, because now they can interpret movies, they can interpret scenes, and see these patterns that all cinematographers are using universally, whether they know it or not. And if you've heard of the BODVO system, you know just how crucial and how important it is. So it is something that, again, I never learned in my undergrad. I definitely never learned at USC. So when I learned it on my own outside of school, it was something that I continue to implement, and I am very happy and proud to teach my students so that they can go forth with this knowledge. And they may not use these systems, they may not use the BODVO, but at least they have an approach to how to film a scene and a starting point, a starting conversation that they can have with their directors. And the last quote that I will pull from my students talks about the BODVO, and here's what they think. BODVO and key vision were some of the most vital parts. We learned angles and lighting that allowed our movies to get that much better. Again, these are just systems that I'm teaching, starting points that you can have, conversations that you can have with directors, and it gives young cinematographers a starting point. Again, when I was learning cinematography, I had so much paralysis on like, okay, here's the script. Now read the script, interpret the script, come up with a shot list, come up with storyboards and or help with storyboards. And I just didn't know how to block a scene. I didn't know where to put the light. I didn't know what putting a light in this place meant versus putting it in that place, and then having your characters, your talent blocked in one certain way. I just didn't know where to begin. So again, the BODVO system and key vision, as the student talked about, are really huge cornerstones in everything that I believe in as a cinematographer and also as a professor. So yeah, looking back at it, when I was a student, I didn't learn half of what I learned that I myself taught to my students. It's a testament to what time can do as cinematography changes, as methods and ways of learning can do. So I'm just happy that I'm in a place now where I can teach all of these practices and all of these things that I find important to my students as well. And that to me just makes me feel really good and fulfilled as a professor, as a cinematographer. The fact that I can share some of these, what I thought were huge secrets of the industry and huge secrets of successful cinematographers, things that I have learned and that I implement every time I go onto set, every time that I sit down for pre-production, every conversation that I have with directors and all of the other heads of departments. I'm so happy that I can teach all the things that I've learned and that it actually has an impact, that it actually means something. So I'm very proud of the things that I've taught, and hopefully moving forward, as professors and cinematographers and filmmakers teach these classes, hopefully these new methods that they are learning, they can implement as well. Because again, at the time when I learned cinematography as an undergrad student, techniques that I am teaching, that I have taught, did not necessarily exist. And if they did, I don't think that my professors knew about it. So I will continue to carry on this excitement to learn and teach, and hopefully for it, I become better as a cinematographer, as a collaborator, as a friend, and hopefully those who I teach will also. All right, so there it is. You got a chance to see my report card as a professor. It was kind of daunting to receive it, go over it, and then make this video because I don't know if there are any other professors that do this. So yeah, I had a lot of fun breaking that down and talking about it, and hope you did as well. But I absolutely want to encourage any of you, if you are students, if you are professors, to comment down below and let me know something that you wish you would have learned when you were in film school. And if you're not in film school, let me know in the comments what you do want to learn and what you're not able to find on the internet, through YouTube, through other cinematographers, filmmakers, because I want to learn too. And maybe that's something that you want to learn that I can learn, and then we can just teach each other as we continue to grow as filmmakers. So yeah, let me know in the comments. Very excited to hear your thoughts on what you could have learned, what you should have learned, what you wanted to learn, and yeah, want to hear all about it. All right, so to double back on what I said earlier, I will be making a video on key vision again. I've made a video on key vision years ago, so if you're interested in learning that technique, there is an old video that I may link at the end of this video, but also I will be making another video about key vision and really diving into what it is to me and how I came up with the idea. And I'll be sharing some stills from short films that I have worked on where I use key vision, and then also share some behind the scenes and overheads of what that looks like, so that hopefully you can learn this technique and then take it for your own and make it a whole new name. Because again, I didn't make up this, like where to put the light for key vision. This is just me interpreting where these lights are and coming up with a cool fancy name to remember it. So I'll be making a video on that. Stay tuned for that. And last but not least, thank you so much for watching this video. If you made it this far into it, I want to continue to make more videos on filmmaking, specifically cinematography. So if you're excited about that and you want to learn more, especially from someone who has been through the ringer, you have seen my report card, you know what my syllabus is all about, you know what my class is all about, get subscribed, and maybe we can do more videos in the future about what I taught, and you can hear more about my experiences as a professor at USC. Okay. All right, that's it. I'm very tired, and I'm not looking forward to editing this. But hopefully you'll enjoy it and be better for it. Okay, bye. I'm Maddie, the cinematographer. If I haven't met you yet, I will do my best to make my way to you. Thank you for coming, first and foremost. Really appreciate it. Safety, there was a saying I kept thinking of last night, and I got it wrong. I was telling my girlfriend. But if everyone can think, because I'm trying to remind myself all of the time, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. As we're moving around, please be conscious of what you're doing, where you're moving, who's around you, because the more safe we can be and conscious of each other, the smoother we can do our jobs and operate. So try to keep that in mind, because I'm trying to do the same as well. But that's really it. Just be kind to everyone, and just be aware of what you're doing. And if you have any questions, I have some too. Let's ask each other and let's get through it together. But that's all I got. Thank you.